Welcome to the C-Files, folks. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, like the video, and share the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It boosts the channel. I don't advertise on this channel. I don't monetize. Frankly, I can't stand most of the advertisements. I can't. I don't want them on my channel. I don't want anything to do with them. So anyway, I promised you guys that we were going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 28. And here's why. And we're going to do that now. Here's why. A lot of people are putting a lot of stuff out on social media. A lot of people are saying a lot of things from the pulpits about Israel that is false and incorrect. Everybody talks about the land promised to Israel. We'll get into that too. Everybody talks about God's promise to Abraham, that would be a blessing to modern day Israel, formed in 1948. And they're saying that Christians have to support and bless Israel in order for God to support and bless Christians. That's basically what they're saying. So what I wanted to do is well, let me go back for just a moment before I say this. That is a very, very common theme because of the popularity of dispensational premillennialism, which has been popularized by John Darby, by C.I. Scofield, by Clarence Larkin, by certain denominations, by the study Bibles, certain study Bibles, like Scofield's study Bible, C.I. Scofield, by Hal Lindsey, by Jack Van Impe, by Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins, with the Left Behind series. These have sold multi-million copies of their books. And so it is the most common eschatological belief out there right now. And it is actually to the point that it is actually dictating to some degree our foreign policy in government, and some of the ways that our State Department does things in government. So does it have an effect? Is it important to understand it correctly? Oh yes, most definitely. Because if we get it wrong, we're affecting not only the church, we're also affecting government. Because government pays attention, because people who are in the church go into government, become elected officials, become bureaucrats, and so forth, and they take their theological beliefs that they were taught in the church with them into government, and so that's how it begins to affect government. So, yes, God made promises to Abraham. God made land promises to Israel. Here's the thing that no one ever says. It was conditional. It was conditional. Deuteronomy 28 is a pretty long chapter. It's, it's 68 verses. But you know what? We're going to go through all 68. Now, Deuteronomy 20, about 25, 26, 20, 24, 25, 26, 27, it's really building up the theme by going into detail God's law to Old Covenant Israel. He's addressing Israel before they cross the Jordan to go into the land the first time, after they came out of Egypt. And they roamed in the desert for 40 years, and now, they're getting ready to go into the land. At least they were told to go into the land. The first attempt failed because only Jacob and Jacob and not Jacob. Jacob and Caleb were the only two that said, "Yeah, let's go in and take these giants down." The rest of them said, "Oh no, there's giants in the land. We can't take these guys." And so they ended up roaming 40 years in the wilderness. And then the second generation came along, and they're the ones that went in and took the land. Here's an example of some of the things that God was telling Israel, just out of 27. Cursed be he that sets light by his father or his mother, and all the people say amen. So anyone who, basically anyone who curses his father or mother, or is rebellious against his father or mother, he's cursed. He says, curse he that removes his neighbor's landmark, property line, basically. So the Bible teaches private property rights, believe it or not. Curses he that makes the blind to wander out of the way. He guides someone the wrong way. The curse he that perverts the judgment of the stranger, the fatherless and the widow. You don't tell someone who's destitute to give to your ministry. Even in the Old Covenant, there were provisions for the poor. They were not required to give a tithe of the first fruits to the Levites and to the temple, and for the poor and so forth, the same way that the rich were required to do. The rich had to bring the bullock and the lamb and so forth. The poor could bring a bird, a turtle dove, it's called in the Old King James. Or if they couldn't even afford that, God had grace for those who were completely destitute. And so, yes, there was grace for that. Cursed be he that perverts the judgment of the stranger, the fatherless and widow. Cursed be he that lies with his father's wife. Any kind of sexual immorality was a problem. In other words, Israel, you got to stay pure and holy. You cannot pervert the design of creation. If you do, there's a problem, right? He says, cursed be he that lies with his father's wife, because he uncovers his father's skirt. Cursed be he that lies with any manner of beast. Bestiality is forbidden in Scripture. Cursed be he that lies with his sister. Incest. The daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother, that's forbidden. Cursed be he that lies with his mother-in-law, that's forbidden. Cursed be he that smites his neighbor secretly. In other words, premeditated murder and then trying to hide the crime, that's forbidden. Cursed be he that takes reward to slay an innocent person. Being paid to kill someone, bribery, if you will, to kill someone. Cursed be he that confirms not all the words of this law to do them. So he's giving some specifics here. This is case law. Case law is in the modern concept of case law is basically that the legislature writes laws, and then when a court makes a court decision based upon the law that the legislature has written, and the court interprets that law in a particular instance, a particular circumstance, that's called case law. And that's what this is. This is taking the Ten Commandments and breaking it down even further and saying, these are some ways that, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not lie, and so forth, are interpreted in a practical way. And it's telling them, you don't do this, don't do that, because it breaks one of the commandments. Well, the two great commandments are love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, love your neighbor as yourself. And that's what this is really getting to. But in verse, and that's at the end of chapter 28. At the end of chapter 27. Chapter 28 is going to give the conditions by which Israel receives the blessing of God promised to Abraham. Listen to this. And it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord your God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command you this day, that the Lord your God will set you on high above all nations of the earth. So it begins with the blessings if they obey. And here they are. And all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you, if you shall hearken unto the voice of the Lord your God. Blessed shall you be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the field. In other words, I'll bless your cities. Your cities will be safe. Your fields will be productive. You'll be able to grow crops and eat and so forth. Blessed shall be the fruit of your body. In other words, you'll be able to have children without being fertile. You'll be fertile, without having problems with that. And the fruit of the ground. So once again, the crops. It's always about the crops in the ancient world because, if they didn't have a good crop, there were no grocery stores they could go to pick out items. That was their survival. Okay. And the fruit of your cattle, the increase of your kind, the flocks of the sheep, and so forth. Bless, and by the way, that's the 10%. That's it's actually a tithe in the old covenant was 23%, but we won't get into that. Some of you are stuck on the 10% number. A shockwave just went through your body. What, 23? What? Yeah, it's 23% overall. By the time you figure the year of Jubilee, the 50th year, every third year, giving to the Levites and so forth, there's a lot to it. Anyway, it's about 23%. Blessed shall be your basket and your store. In other words, God's going to give you increase. He's going to prosper you. Here's the rest of it. Blessed shall you be when you come in. Blessed shall you be when you go out. The Lord shall cause your enemies to rise up against you to be smitten. So those who rise up against you and try to fight against you, Israel, would not be successful. And they would be smitten before your face. They shall come out against you one way and flee before you 7 ways. And this is if they, conditional upon doing what God told them to do in the original writing of the law, and in the case law, the practical application of the law. Verse 8, the Lord shall command the blessing upon you in your storehouses. He would give you increase, you'd be able to store up for that rainy day when things aren't so good and you need to pull from your resources. And in all that you set your hand unto, and he shall bless you in the land which the Lord your God gives you. The Lord shall establish you an holy people unto himself. Now that's a big subject. When you hit 1 Peter, the concept of holy people there takes a big turn and a big new meaning in the new covenant. But we will deal with that as we continue to teach on these subject matters and on this channel. All right. Let's see. Yeah, verse 9, he will establish you a holy people unto himself, as he has sworn unto you, if you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. And all the people of the earth shall see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of you. Now that, to some degree that happened, but to a larger degree, Israel did not fulfill this. They went more toward the latter end of chapter 28, which we'll get into in a moment. And all people of the earth will see you and be, called that you were called by the name of the Lord, and they will be afraid of you. And the Lord will make you plenteous in goods, in the fruit of your body, and in the fruit of your cattle, and in the fruit of your ground, the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give you. The Lord will open unto you his good treasure. Now you here, or unto thee, O King James language, it's not talking about us, it's talking about them back then. He would give them his good treasure, the heaven to give rain. The rain will come out of the sky, which is needed for the crops, unto your land in his season. Excuse me, just had breakfast and have to pause for a moment. Okay. And to bless all the work of your hand, and you shall lend unto many nations, and you shall not borrow. You won't be a debtor nation, he's saying. They will be debtor nations to you. I will prosper you to the degree that you will be super rich. Remember, in Solomon's time, when Solomon ruled over Israel, Israel was the richest nation in the world. And other nations came to Israel. They were debtor nations to Israel. Verse 13, I'll do 12. The Lord shall open unto you his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain upon your land in his season, and to bless all the work of your hand, and you shall lend unto many nations, and you shall not borrow. And the Lord shall make you the head and not the tail, and you shall be above only, and you shall not be beneath. If that you hearken unto the commandments of the Lord your God, there's the condition. If you hearken to the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day to observe and to do them, and you shall not go aside from any of the words which I command you this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. In other words, if you get involved in idolatry, even if it's atheistic self-worship, or if you misrepresent the one true God, or if you make idols to bow down before them, you're going to have a problem. That's what he's saying. Now, verse 15, he goes into the curses of disobedience. This is the warning that God gave to Israel before they went into the land. And it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken unto the voice of the Lord your God, to observe to do all his commandments and statutes which I command you this day, that all these curses shall be upon you and overtake you. Cursed shall you be in the city, cursed shall you be in the field, cursed shall you be your basket and your store. Store meaning the storehouse where you'd put the excess. Cursed shall be the fruit of your body. You won't be able to have children. And the fruit of your land. You won't be able to produce the crops. So there's famine right there. And increase of your kind. In other words, the animals that you can slaughter and eat, the animals that you can bring for sacrifice, and flocks of your sheep. In other words, they won't be plenteous. God will decrease their numbers. They will be diseased. They'll be speckled. There'll be issues. Cursed shall you be when you come in. Cursed shall you be when you go out. And he might be referring to the temple there, going into the temple, coming out of the temple. The Lord shall send unto you cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that you set your hand unto for to do, until you be destroyed. And of course, that occurred 586 BC for Judah. It was 5. Can't remember. It's like 571 or something like that. AD for Israel. I'm a little bit off on the Israel number. I know that 586 is accurate. Anyway, Babylon went in and took them down because they were cursed because of this passage where they didn't follow what God told them to do. And until you perish quickly because of the wickedness of your doings, where you have forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto you until he have consumed you off the land, whether you go to possess it. Now in Isaiah 14, or is Ezekiel, I think it's Ezekiel 14, there are 4 judgments of God. And that is it's the beast, the sword, the famine, and the pestilence. And here's one of them being named here in Deuteronomy 28. God uses those 4 judgments to judge a nation. Of course, the beast being a ruling nation, an invasion from a stronger nation, which is called the beast. That's also the same as beast in Revelation. Rome being the beast of the book of Revelation. And then the sword, of course, that's war, that's crime, that's violence in the land. And then there was famine. Of course, this is talking about the fact that the crops would fail. God would curse the crops, they would fail as a part of the judgment against that nation, the nation of Israel in this case. And that would bring pestilence because people would die within the city walls and the corpses would rot and cause disease. And so there's the progression, or can I say digression? We'll continue on. Verse 21, the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto you until he have consumed you off the land, whether you go to possess it. So you'd be removed from the land because God would remove you and allow the land to heal from the wickedness that was in it. The Lord shall smite you with a consumption and with a fever and with an inflammation and with extreme burning and with the sword and with blasting and with mildew, and they shall pursue you until you perish. And your heaven that is over your head shall be brass, and the earth that is under you shall be iron. This is metaphoric language. It's saying that times are going to be very difficult. Let me bring this up a little bit. Sorry, folks. There you go. Now, the Lord shall make the rain of your land powder and dust. In other words, there'd be drought. From heaven shall it come down upon you, and you would be destroyed. The Lord shall cause you to be smitten before your enemies. You would go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, the opposite of before, where they would go one way and flee 7 ways if there was a blessing. And shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth, scattered. That's what happened after AD 70 when the temple came down. They were scattered. And by the way, it's not CE. Stop that CE nonsense. It's AD. It's after our Lord. All right. Yes, I'm rebellious. I rebel against some of the asinine and ridiculous ideas of our day. I don't care what society thinks or what the elites in the universities teach. They're wrong a lot of the time. The Lord shall cause you to be smitten before your enemies. You will go out one way against them and flee 7 ways. Verse 26. Your carcass, dead body, shall be meat unto all fowls of the air. and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. The Lord will smite you with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, that's a disease, and with the scab, and with the itch, it's like a skin disease, whereof you cannot be healed. The Lord will smite you with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. I think we could see that in our modern day, can't we? You shall grope at noonday as the blind gropes in darkness, and you shall not prosper in your ways, and you shall be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save you. You shall betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. That's a curse of God, folks. Having an affair is a curse of God on a nation. You shall build a house, and you shall not dwell therein. You shall plant a vineyard, and shall not gather the grapes thereof. In other words, it'll lay destitute. Your ox, in modern day, can we say your tractor, shall be slain before your eyes. It'll break down. You won't be able to fix it. To give a modern interpretation. And you shall not eat thereof. Your ass or donkey, mule, if you will. That's what that word actually originally meant. We've taken it and used it as a dirty word now, a derogatory term, a cuss word. It didn't originally mean that. Just like gay didn't mean what it means today. It meant happy before. So when you see that Christmas carol that says gay apparel in the Christmas carol, it's not talking about sexual perversion. It's talking about happy apparel, joyful apparel. See, language is a weapon if you weaponize it. Think about that. Your donkey or your mule shall be violently taken away from before your face, and shall not be restored to you. Your sheep shall be given unto your enemies, and shall have none to rescue them. Think about that one, folks. Sheep in Scripture are they're typological. They're type of the people of Israel in the Old Covenant times, and sheep of the church in the New Covenant times. They'd be scattered. They'd be abused. Yes, that can happen if we're not doing that which is right in the eyes of the Lord. But God will ultimately watch over his remnant, and he will take care of them. That happened when they were taken into Babylon. That happened when they were in Egypt, and so forth. Your sheep shall be given unto your enemies, and you shall not, and none will be able to rescue them. Your sons and your daughters will be given to another people. Your eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. In other words, they're gone. You won't be able to see them. And you'll miss them. And there shall be no might in your hand. You have no ability, no strength to be able to do anything about it. God would do that to Israel if they disobeyed him, if they went after other gods, if they did what the other nations were doing. The fruit of your land and all your labors shall a nation which you know not eat up, and you shall be only oppressed and crushed away. so that you shall be mad for the sight of your eyes, which you shall see. It'll drive you nuts what you see, the horrible things you see in the world. The Lord shall smite you in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch. They cannot be healed from the sole of the foot unto the top of the head. The Lord shall bring you and your king, which you shall set over you, unto a nation which neither you nor your fathers have known. And in this case, it was Babylon. And there shall you serve other gods, wood and stone, because it was required of that nation. And you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. So there's anti-Semitism, as people today like to term it. According to this passage right here, God is causing it, because God is stirring other people up to bring judgment down upon his people when his people turn against him. You shall carry much seed out into the field, and shall gather but little in, for the locusts shall consume it. You shall plant vineyards and dress them, and shall neither drink of the wine, nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. You shall have olive trees throughout all your coasts, but you shall not anoint yourself with the oil, for your olive shall cast its fruit. Now, all of this is what God would do if Israel disobeyed him, if they went after idolatry and so forth, if they violated his laws. All your trees and fruit of your land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within you shall get up above you very, very high, and you shall come down very low. In other words, the folks out there that are not the people of God, they will rule over you. He shall lend to you, and you shall not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon you, and shall pursue you and overtake you till you be destroyed, because you did not hearken unto the voice of the Lord your God, to keep his commandments and statutes which he commanded you. There are consequences to not hearkening to the voice of God. And they shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and upon your seed forever, because you serve not the Lord your God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Therefore shall you serve your enemies, which the Lord shall send against you, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck until he have destroyed you. The Lord shall bring a nation against you from far, and from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose tongue you will not understand, a nation whose language you won't understand, basically, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of your cattle and the fruit of your land until you be destroyed, which also shall not leave you either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of your kind, or flocks of your sheep, until he have destroyed you. And he shall besiege you in all your gates. In other words, there are gates on the cities, and the gates would not be able to hold back the onslaught, until your high and fenced walls come down. There were walls around the city to protect them back then, wherein you trusted in the walls and not in me. You trusted in the tanks. You trusted in the missiles. You trusted in the warships. You trusted in your military. And it all comes crumbling down. Wherein you trusted there throughout all the land, and he shall besiege you in all your gates throughout all your land, which the Lord your God has given you. We're almost through it, and we'll have a final commentary. And you shall eat the fruit of your own body. It'll get so bad, Israel, he says, that there'll be cannibalism inside your walls. Why? Because you're starving to death and you have nothing to eat. The flesh of your sons and of your daughters, which the Lord your God has given you, in the siege. You see, an army would siege a city. They'd sit around the city. They'd cut off the supplies going into the city, and the people would begin to starve, and that's how the famine would come. In the siege and in the straitness wherewith your enemies shall distress you, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. We're nice and friendly and happy people when everything's going well. Have you noticed the rioting and the looting lately? How people can turn into animals when things are not going well? At least they have a perception that things are not going their way. We're all capable of that, folks. So that, let's see, where am I? I'll just go here. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children which he shall leave. No sympathy. Heart grows very cold. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he has nothing left in the siege and in the straitness wherewith your enemies shall distress you in all your gates. There'd be famine, be starving to death, because then, the army surrounded the city and cut off the supplies. The tender and delicate woman among you, that puts the makeup on and the perfume and the nice dress and looks, the manicured nails and looks really nice normally and very beautiful and very feminine. Well, here's what he says would happen with that. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not venture to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. Her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son and toward her daughter. They turn into vicious animals because of the circumstances. And toward her young one that comes out from between her feet. In other words, even the newborn baby is not safe in that situation from its own mother. I wonder what in our modern society would mimic that. There's an industry out there that specializes in this, the murder and killing of innocent children when they are in the process of developing, as God had determined in creation to develop as a human being. That's a curse upon a nation that God has brought. And toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness wherewith your enemy shall distress you in your gates. If you will not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, then that you may fear this glorious and fearful name. This is what he's talking about when he says fear the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Well, right here. God is a consuming fire. The wrath of God is a horrible thing to face. That you may fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God. Then the Lord will make your plagues wonderful. What an interesting way of saying that. And the plagues of your seed, even great plagues, and of long countenance, and sore sickness, and of long countenance. And remember, he's doing this to a people that have wholly rebelled against the God that has so greatly blessed them. And they are committing all kinds of evil atrocities. Moreover, he will bring upon you all the diseases of Egypt, which you were afraid of, and they shall cleave unto you. Pandemic. Interesting, huh? Also, every sickness and every plague, which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon you until you be destroyed. And ye shall be left few in number. That's the remnant. Whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. Why? Because you wouldn't have obeyed the voice of the Lord your God. It's really that simple. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, and you shall be plucked from off the land, whether you go to possess it. They would be removed from the land and scattered among the heathen. Almost done. And the Lord shall scatter you among all people. That happened when they went into Babylon. Babylon was a world empire, by the way. It happened when they were scattered all over the Roman Empire after AD 70, when the temple came down, just as the Lord predicted would happen in Matthew 24, Luke 21, and Mark 13. And the Lord shall scatter you among all people, from the one end of the earth even to the other, and you shall serve other gods. That's a curse as well. Which neither you nor your fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shall you find no ease, neither shall the sole of your foot have rest, but the Lord will give you there a trembling heart and felling of eyes and sorrow of mind. And your life shall hang in doubt before you. You shall fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of your life. In the morning you shall say, would God it were even, and at even you shall say, would God it were morning. In the fear of your heart, wherewith you shall fear, and for the sight of your eyes, which you shall see. And the Lord shall bring you into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I speak unto you. You shall see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, slaves, and no man shall buy you. They'll try to sell you as slaves, but nobody's going to want you. Now, the mention of Egypt here, it's a typology. He's saying the Lord will bring you into Egypt. He'll bring you into a circumstance like you had in Egypt, where you're under bondage. Now, there are two camps when it comes to modern day Israel. One is the dispensational premillennial camp, which says that the promises that Abraham still apply to the promises. They're the same promises that would apply to Israel, modern day Israel, that was formed in 1948 off of the Balfour Accord by the Rockefellers, John D. Rockefeller. No, it was the Rothschilds. Excuse me, I'm getting the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds mixed up. Rothschild actually really pushed for the formation of Israel after World War II. That camp says that when God said to Abraham, "Those who bless you I will bless, and those who curse you I will curse," that it applies to that modern day Israel today. And so therefore nations have to just bow down almost to the point of worshiping that Israel, some dispensationalists believe. Some of them really go way, way overboard with it. And they say you have to do that in order to be blessed. And then they make no distinction like Deuteronomy 28 does. They don't say for Israel to come into the land, there's a requirement that they be godly people following the one true God and obeying him. They never mention that. There's another camp, it's more of a covenantal eschatology camp. And they say, well, that Israel that's over there today is not the same Israel that we're reading about in the Bible when we're reading Deuteronomy 28. And so therefore the promises to Abraham, those who bless you, I will bless, those who curse you, I will curse, does not apply to them. And really, frankly, neither does Deuteronomy 28 to the most degree. Now, Deuteronomy 28 would kind of be a good guideline for every nation in the world today. So the argument would be that the land promised to Israel, specific Israel, and the specific land that God told Joshua, it's not Jacob, it was Joshua and Esau. I kept thinking Jacob. Joshua and Esau, I'm glad I corrected that before the video ended, that he gave to Joshua, that is, specific boundaries of land. That was true in the Old Covenant. In the New Covenant, God's remnant people, his elect, are promised the entire world. So it's not restricted to that piece of land over there that we call Israel. It's universal. It's the worldwide occupation of the land. That's New Covenant. Now, that doesn't mean that political Israel occupies all the earth. It's those who are in the Messiah. The seed of Abraham is Jesus Christ, the Messiah. And so those who are in the Messiah inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth, Christ said. That's the other camp. Now, if you're in the camp that says that Israel over there today is the same Israel that God speaks about in the Old Covenant books, you got a problem, because they are under, that means that they would be under the curses of Deuteronomy 28, not the blessings, because they have rejected the Messiah. They're worshiping a false god, the god of the traditions, the Mishnah and all that, the traditions of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. That's the false god, as Jesus Christ pointed out to them so many times in the gospel. He says the blind are leading the blind. Those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, let them understand. But he says they don't have ears to hear and eyes to see. He told his disciples, Christ told his disciples, because God has blinded their eyes. That's what Jesus said. So, if they're not following the Messiah, most of the people in Israel today are atheistic, they're atheists, and then the Orthodox Jews have rejected the Messiah and they're worshiping a false God. If you're worshiping a monotheistic God, meaning one God, the one true, only true God, absent the Son, absent Christ, you're worshiping a false God. That's what the scriptures are telling us. It's really that simple. Now, if that's the case, then the blessings don't apply. The cursings do. If the seed of Abraham is the Messiah, Jesus Christ, and it is, that's clear in the New Covenant, then it is only the redeemed, only those who are in Christ that would receive the blessings. And even they could be under a curse if the nation they abide in comes under the wrath and curse of God. They would be in a bad situation, but God would protect them to some degree. God would provide for them to some degree. But the conditions of the nation are also going to affect them as it does anyone else. So now you've heard the other side of the story. So folks, please be careful about believing everything you're hearing concerning Israel. There's a lot more to this, and I can't get into all of it because we're almost to an hour. But when you think of Israel, think Deuteronomy 28. If you believe that Israel over there today is the same as Old Covenant Israel that we're reading about in the Old Covenant, think Deuteronomy 28. Are they under the blessing of God or are they under the curse of God? Well, they've rejected the Messiah, so they're under the cursing of God. That's according to Scripture. I read it to you. So if you want to say that's being anti-Semitic, then you're also going to have to say that Deuteronomy 28 and the instructions that God gave to Moses and then Moses gave to the people are anti-Semitic. What are you going to do with that? I'll see you next time on C-Files. I think that's enough to rock the boat a little. God bless. I'll see you next time. Next time I'm going to talk about Philippians 4:8. So if you want to go and read Philippians 4:8, we're going to talk about that passage in the next video. God bless. See you next time.